Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show. Welcome back, I should say. It's been a while. We got a little message right as we started the show that said 10 people have resubscribed while we're away. Thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around while we took 2 weeks off for the holidays, the new year. It is a new year.
And it's a new year. We survived 2016.
We did.
I don't know how we did it, but we are still alive.
And we're happy to be here talking to you guys. As you just heard, joining me today is Mr. Bo Moore, our technology editor. Bo, how you doing?
I am doing well. How about yourself, Mr. Marks?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to be back. You know, it's a good sign when you take 2 weeks off and you get back from work and you're like, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about video games and do
I
that
think you're
sort of stuff.
especially excited because you just got to create a really, really top shelf image for the Twitters.
Yeah. I'll pull that up while we're talking. But also joining us today via the magic of the internet is Steven Mesner. Steven, how you doing?
Hello, Internet. I'm here. I made it. I also survived. It was a close one.
Yeah, it was close for us all. But
there was some rum and eggnog on New Year's Eve that almost did me in, but I survived.
Yes, this is the image Bo was talking about. We continued the tradition of the bathtub Geralt and put bathtub Altair. I'm proud of this one. I'm really proud of this one. For anybody listening on the podcast, you should go to pcgamer.com and look at our silly bathtub images. But that's not why we're here today. We're not talking about the bathtub on the show today, unfortunately. But we've got a great show for you. We're going to talk about what we've been playing over the last couple weeks. You know, it's been a long break. We had a lot of time to just kind of sit down and play video games. We talked about a lot of stuff that we wanted to play before the break, and we'll see if we actually got to those. We'll also be talking about CES 2017, which is starting today, officially tomorrow?
I think officially tomorrow, but stuff is already coming out of it today, yesterday.
For those who don't know, CES is the Consumer Electronics Show out of Las Vegas. A lot of weird and cool and kind of edge-pushing tech announcements and some more modest announcements as well. But, you know, we're going to talk about a $9,000 laptop with two 1080s in it.
Because why not?
Because why not?
And a 2 terabyte thumbstick, because why not?
Oh, man, I want it. I don't even
Has
know why I want
it. Has science gone too far? I think it has this time.
Like,
2 terabytes.
I haven't even filled my 1 terabyte hard drive at home, but I want a 2 terabyte thumbstick for some reason. Just cause.
What are you going to put on it?
I mean, 4K images of Geralt in the bathtub.
Yeah. Panama weeks.
But we'll also be looking forward towards this year, after we look back and after we look at the current. And we're going to look at 2017. It's just some of the games that are coming out, some of the things that we're most excited for, or talk to you about what you're most excited for. There's a lot of great stuff that's coming out and a lot of kind of unknown stuff, like smaller stuff that's exciting as well. And then, of course, we'll be taking your questions from Twitch chat at the end of the show. So stick around if you've got any questions for us. I know some of you might have some pent-up questions from the break. Jules M. resubscribed for 2 months. Nick Warrior 5 just subscribed. And Mr. Great 50 Cal, what a name, also just subscribed. Thank you very, very much, guys. We appreciate all your support as usual. But let's begin with what we've been playing because it's going to be a longer one, I think, this time. There's a lot of stuff. We had a lot of time to play. Steven, was that your dad?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He just wanted to say goodbye and that he loves me.
Oh, that's sweet.
Big whoop. Want to fight about it? My dad loves me, guys, okay? Come at me.
We should have him on the show.
Yeah.
So one of the things I played over the break, I played a lot of Duelist still, but I rebeat Inside. We were talking about Inside 2 or 3 weeks ago or whatever. For you guys weren't, because you weren't here. But we talked about Inside as a game that was like worth going back and playing. And I had already beaten it, but I was up in the mountains, as one does for the holidays. And we didn't have, internet, and it was just kind of like hanging out and enjoying being in the mountains and being in a cabin. And so I did that by playing a really creepy platformer. And I replayed Inside, and it was like, man, it reminded me actually just how great that game is. It's a really good game. It's not hard, but it's just so pretty and fun, and it was totally a game that I was not expecting to go back and play again, and I'm really kind of glad I did.
Yeah, I actually, over the break, met up with my college roommate at one point, and he berated me for having still not played it. Because he wants to talk about it with me. I was like, I'm sorry, I meant to play it, but I still haven't yet. So yeah, please don't spoil the apparently important endings and stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah, we won't go into that.
The statute of limitations hasn't passed on spoilers. So you got to wait another 6 months.
When does that happen, right?
Because
Because The Witness is another game that was very kind of, if you had it spoiled for you, it kind of got disappointing. Or not disappointing, but it was like a bummer. It's more fun to figure that stuff out on your own. But like, I saw a lot of the end of the year, game of the year stuff just being like, oh yeah, this was the thing in The Witness. Like, this is how The Witness went. And I won't spoil it here, but like, it seemed like the statute of limitations on The Witness had already passed, but inside everyone was like a little bit more cautious of still.
Yeah, I feel like that in that particular case, it has a lot to do with maybe people's respect of the game. And I mean, also, like, because The Witness has had a lot of kind of mixed critical reception and just reception in general. Whereas Inside, I feel like for the most part was highly praised. But to that end, like with The Witness as well, you can, I guess, still play it. Like the spoiling it, there's two aspects to be spoiled. The like, I guess, meaning or story or whatever, and then the actual like puzzle solutions.
Yeah.
Whereas, in that case, like the puzzle solutions, if you spoiled them, then like what's the point of even playing the game? They're just little puzzles. Whereas with Inside, kind of to your point of playing it again, you still found value in playing it despite knowing the solutions to the puzzles because you had done them before.
And the thing about that game too is like the puzzles were never really what captured me about Inside. Like the puzzles were always pretty like simple. The way I like to describe them is like there are puzzles, there are easy puzzles in it, but then there are puzzles that like you will not get the first time or the second time you do them, and then you will just understand and finish, like, easily, right? Like, it's just enough to kind of, like, hit you, but not make you feel completely overwhelmed or completely, like, frustrated by a puzzle, which is, I think, like, a hard-to-balance difficulty level, and I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, and to contrast that with The Witness, like, it was pretty sure, but, like, the engaging part about that game was all the puzzles, and like that was the game.
I don't know. I think I could just watch that game, just look at it for
The Witness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That island is just one of the prettiest things.
Like one of the things I wonder about The Witness too, because when I first was playing it and I was so careful, like I almost couldn't talk about it with certain people because I didn't even want to come close to spoiler territory because that game, like, I think it's aptly described as like an epiphany simulator.
That's kind of a good way to do it. You're saying
it's a really good way of putting it. And I mean, now enough time's passed about it, spoiler alert for The Witness, but like the big thing with that game, one of the earliest tricks it plays is the way it quite literally makes you think outside the box when it comes to puzzles, because there's the puzzles that take place in the box, and then at one point you suddenly realize that you can basically trace puzzles in the actual world. And that was like such an insane, mind-blowing moment for me when I was first playing it, and I didn't want to rob that from someone else by telling them that you could do that. And so, yeah, I don't know. Spoilers are weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't think it's not like a fine line. Like you can't say like 9 months. I think it's just, when enough time has gone by.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, if you don't know what happens in Star Wars, it's too late. I have no sympathy.
Anthony is raising his hand behind the camera right now because he's never seen Star Wars. So, spoilers, guys. All of the Star Wars movies.
Shame.
He is reading chat,
Shame.
so if you want to, totally ruin his day, you can go ahead and do that, because we're going to shame him right now.
Shame.
I'm so glad that something more embarrassing happened on this podcast than my dad walking in.
Oh my God!
Thank you, Anthony.
Let's breeze by that real quick, because that was harsh. That was brutal.
Ooh, roasted.
So the game I probably played, besides Duelist, the game I played the most this break was Castle Crashers.
Really?
Yeah, so also I should catch this real quick before I forget. JBJ Blaze resubscribed for 13 months. Thank you, man. And Toham
Awesome.
just resubscribed for 4 months. We appreciate both of your supports. So another subscriber of the podcast and the magazine, and a friend of mine from college, actually gifted me Castle Crashers. I had played it. I've beaten Castle Crashers, I want to say 2 or 3 times. I think it's 3 times before this. And I had always played it on like friends' Xboxes. I had never borrowed it, or I had never owned it. And so he gifted me a Steam copy, and he was like, because we used to play it in college together, and he was like, you probably already have this, like, it's not a big deal, whatever. And like, I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like, I'm so excited to actually own this game again that, like, he gave it to me, and it was like $3. Like, he had an extra copy, and it was like $3 on the sale, right? So it was like this, not much monetarily, but like then I immediately like spent $2 on the DLC because I like wanted it. So it was like I couldn't rationalize spending $3 on buying myself this game. But as soon as I was gifted that game, I was like, I'm gonna spend money on the DLC now.
Totally.
Like, just whatever.
Yeah.
I played a ton of that game over the break though with family and friends, and it was, oh god, it was so much fun. I think I've been leaving that game out of my like top 10, top 15 lists for too long. I really think it's just a phenomenal game.
Castle Crashers? Yeah, I've never played that one either. What is...
This is the show of Tom having played games and Steven and I not. Yeah, I still haven't played it either.
Which, to be fair, I mean, we've had previous shows where Tom had to admit that he had... I mean, everyone has blind spots in their gaming library or their... So, I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Not in the library, usually. We usually have libraries that are way too long that are just games that have gone unplayed.
The other day, actually, I organized my Steam library because I was like, I got so overwhelmed looking at it, trying to figure out if I wanted to start a new game and which game that should be, that I finally was like, I need to organize this into like games I've played, games I don't have any interest in playing or have beaten, and then games I'd like to play but maybe would take a really long time or something like that. And that was like an hour and a half long project. So, yeah. Games, guys. Steam games, especially. Steam libraries. They get out of control.
You know what we should do?
What's that?
This is the only rational thing. We should vow not to buy a single game in 2017 and then catch up, and then we can start on 2017 and 2018.
I've thought about that. There are people that have done
work.
that. Did you ever hear about that? Did you hear about that guy, this dad who made his son play basically through the history of video games before he was allowed to play more modern games? Like his son wanted to play Minecraft, and the dad was basically like, okay, before you can play Minecraft, you have to start from the very beginning. And
that's what I've always said, that if I ever have kids, like I'm planning on doing this with my kids. Like you get NES on when you're like 5 years old, and then the next year you get a Super Nintendo, and you go through the generations.
Basically what they did, and this kid's worked his way up, and like, if I remember correctly, this kid had probably a phenomenal understanding of where video games have come from and where they're going, which I actually think is kind of a cool gift to give them, even though it's a little bit weird that you're like forcing your kid to play, Space Invaders.
Yeah, we're talking about thin lines earlier. That's a thin line to walk as well.
Right. You're not allowed to play Minecraft till you beat Battletoads.
Although, in terms of, like, bad parenting, that ranks in, like, the okay, whatever sort of bad parent. Like, you can be a way, way, way worse
Slightly
parent than, like,
raising.
Play Mario and like it. Like,
yeah, totally. Anyway,
well,
yeah.
What did you play, man? What have you got going on?
I've really been bouncing around because at the end of the year is always like a good time to catch up on stuff you missed. So I think I was really bouncing around on a bunch of different stuff. I revisited Titanfall 2, and I'm happy to say I now love the multiplayer for that game. Last time I was talking about it on the show, I said I really didn't like it. I felt it was too fast-paced and too twitchy for me, but now I've revisited it, and I'm having a really good time, and I'm actually doing well, so that's good. I think the thing that really is sort of like my big revelation was Thumper over the break. I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet and buy Thumper and during the Steam sale. And that game is without a doubt like the best rhythm game I have ever played. Like step aside all other rhythm games. I mean, Audio Surf is great because you can play your own music to it. But Thumper is like, I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but Thumper is just a little bit genius, maybe, is like the sensible way of putting it.
That's
It's
like
semi-genius.
I love how you temper your hyperbole.
Yeah.
It's still hyperbole, but it's like it's realistic
I'm
hyperbole.
dialing it back a bit. No, so one of the things I love about Thumper that I think rhythm games have largely missed out on is that Thumper is like where Guitar Hero and Rock Band are like the karaoke of rhythm games, which is to say all it is you playing along with the music, and if you mess up, the music just stops playing. Thumper is really genius because Thumper actually allows for you to fall out of time with the beat, and therefore it becomes much more punishing. But then when you finally learn the beat and like internalize it, it's like this epiphany that's really, really incredible to go through. Because, okay, like if you're playing drums on Rock Band, right? If you miss the step, if you're too fast or like too late on like the kick drum pedal, the game is just like, no, you messed up. It plays like a weird little noise, and maybe the drum track stops playing for a second to let you know that you messed up. But in Thumper, it actually allows, it'll play the beat early or late with you, but then that throws you off from the greater rhythm that you're creating. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's really kind of ingenious because you have these moments where like you're playing this level, and the time signatures in some of these levels in Thumper are like incredibly complex. Like it's not just like 4/4 like happy-go-lucky. It is like crazy, math rock time signatures. And you have these moments where you're playing this over and over again, and it's like trying to learn a new language where you're struggling so hard, but finally something clicks and your like whole body feels the rhythm of the beat, and suddenly you like comprehend the beat you're trying to play, and you just have this moment where you just nail it, and then suddenly like it's almost like there's this chaos, and then suddenly out of the chaos you just decipher this rhythm, and it's, I don't know, it's really beautiful. Thumper's a great game. I really like Thumper. That's my spiel on Thumper.
Yeah, James in the office is always like ogling, or what's the word? Not ogling. Ogling is looking at like
raving.
Yeah, he's gushing over that
Gushing
game
for sure.
as well.
Yeah, he plays it a lot. Like that's often the game that I sit next to James in the office, and when he has a few minutes of downtime, he fires up Thumper and plays a level here and there.
Seems like a stressful game to just like jump into like that.
So it is, and then once you kind of start approaching like mastery of a level, it becomes like playing music where there's just something really satisfying in playing it. Case in point, I haven't even beaten Thumper yet. I don't think I ever will, because level 4 is so damn good that I'm just completely happy to continue playing it again and again and again. Really, like level 4, maybe I need to talk to James about it, but level 4 is like a musical journey in a sense, and it's just really good. Thumper's probably one of my favorite games of the year at this point, which is funny because I didn't play it until the last week of the year.
No, that's
cool. I
cool.
regret doing so.
So what about you, Bo? You said, I think it was yesterday, that you kind of were like not playing too much over the break.
Yeah, I went home for the holidays and went through a whole lot of trouble taking a gaming laptop with me on the plane and everything, and dealing with a bag that it would fit in, only to get to my mom's house and remember that her internet is terrible. It was like the level of internet where you can watch Netflix, but it's like a struggle. Like if you click forward to like skip over the intro, it like takes a second to load it up.
Open your phone and check an email, and it just stalls out.
Basically. So I did not even bother trying to play anything while there. However, once I returned to San Francisco, I continue to do nothing but play Overwatch because
it's Overwatch.
because it's Overwatch. But on that note, there's a new map that came out yesterday. Yes, the new control map Oasis. It's a new King of the Hill map. It's kind of a futuristic city in, I believe, in Iraq. And it's pretty cool. It has a few new additions that hasn't been seen so far. Primarily, it has jump pads on one of the three. So it's like the 3 maps for the 3 control point.
That's exciting,
rounds.
Man. Jump pads in Overwatch?
Yeah,
jump pads are such like an iconic like FPS thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the outside of Lucio Ball, that Rocket League clone brawl that we had back during the summer games, this is the first map to have jump pads. And like overall though, the level design feels a lot more like kind of more traditional classic FPS like deathmatch types levels. Like when I first played, I was like, this feels kind of like a Halo map. Or I didn't play a ton of Quake or Team Fortress, but I sort of feel like it maybe is kind of in that vein. Definitely a lot more verticality rather than things just kind of funneling into these singular choke points, which is I wouldn't say complaint, but a criticism that a lot of people have of...
People don't like the verticality?
No, that they do. I'm saying that on
gotcha.
most of the current Overwatch maps, one of the main criticisms is that most of the encounters kind of boil down to these like few primary choke points, and while there's a lot of cool stuff kind of on the outskirts of the levels, you often don't even see these like flank routes and other stuff. Whereas on the Oasis, like I definitely felt like the control areas where the you have to actually the point. That's what I'm trying to say. There's like a lot of access to the point from different directions that doesn't feel directly like, oh, I just run in from my base and then this is the entrance from my side and that's the entrance from your side. It's like you run in and then you can kind of break off and come in from underneath or above or either side.
Do you think that that verticality is something Blizzard is like... do you think it's a direct response to like people's criticisms of the older maps? Because Eichenwald, the other latest map that they did before this one, also had a lot of verticality, or more verticality to it in a couple of its spots. And it seems to be maybe this is something that like this is a direction they're kind of pushing towards more.
I don't know. I haven't talked to Blizzard about that, but it's definitely an interesting question. I think that, Eichenwald, to that point, it is a little bit more, does have more of the verticality, but it also does still, partially because it's a payload map, still have the, like, these are the choke points, and you have to push past these few chokes. So maybe it's just a problem with the payload style or the capture point style versus the King of the Hill style, because, King of the Hill, you really can have these different entry points, but I don't know, in the games that I've played on it so far, I definitely felt like the encounters were happening on a lot more, like at a lot more different places sort of around the point rather than always at the same place.
Gotcha.
I wonder how much of this too, like, because they released their sort of year in review video 2 weeks ago, and they ended up talking a lot more about the future of Overwatch. And some of the things they talked about was that they have a lot of ideas for what Kaplan described as like experimental maps that they're hoping to try out in the arcade mode, and then eventually, if the response is really well and they think they're balanced enough to be competitive, moving them into the standard play. So I wonder like how much of this was Overwatch starting off, as a fairly, in a sense, safe space for Blizzard with like, okay, let's do very basic map design. The maps are mostly like taking place on a single plane. And then as Overwatch continues to, as they continue to support it in the future, my hope would be that they continue to sort of branch out and see the ways that they can sort of bend the design of Overwatch and the map design. And yeah, like verticality is great. Jump pads are great. I'd love to see them, take that steps further down the road as well.
Well, interestingly, one of the things that I learned from the Overwatch devs, I guess this was at BlizzCon, but we didn't actually publish this interview until our theme week a little while back, was that they made the maps really, really early in the process. Like they had the scale of the size of the maps that they wanted, like locked before they had things like the number of players on a team finally decided. Like it was originally an 8v8 game, and they had 8v8 on the same maps, and they were like, this feels too cramped for 8v8, and instead of making it bigger maps, they made it 6v6 to fit the map. So I think, like, I think the original maps might also just be, like, in a weird way, old design, because Overwatch has changed a lot since those early days.
Yeah.
So, like, the size and the layout of the maps might just be kind of... I mean, like, they're not bad. It's not that they don't fit the game. It's just they might be a little bit off compared to newer ones because they're just remnants of, like, older Overwatch versions.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's
too,
a bit of
yeah.
speculation, right?
Yeah.
That's not like, we don't know that for sure, but like they said that they chose the maps, or they set the maps early, so I'm not sure. We also got Zed Clampett resubscribed for a 4th month. The last game I want to touch on before we move on to CES actually is I played Death Road to Canada with my brother, who is from Canada. He lives in Canada. Steven, also in Canada.
Yeah.
How do you feel about a zombie game being everyone running to Canada?
It's about time we got some recognition for our zombie population. Okay.
Yeah, you don't even get a Civ in Civ 6, man. You just get a city-state. Canada gets the raw deal of everything.
I know, it's brutal.
So, Death Road to Canada, if you guys don't know it, really fun, kind of like Oregon Trail-ish roguelike game. Very pixelated, very silly. Has a lot of weird characters in it that are recognizable characters from other things, though off-brand, so that they don't get sued, basically. Very, 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 very fun game. Very simple game, and it has 2-player co-op. So we went, me and my brother were like, he'd never played it. I'd only played it a bit, but I really enjoyed it, and Evan loves this game. So we're playing Death Road to Canada on Christmas Day, because it was like, we did gifts, and then we were like, kind of just wait until dinner, and we wanted to play some games, so we loaded it up on the TV, and apparently, if you play this zombie game, this indie zombie game, on Christmas Day, the very first random event you get in the game will always be, like, you enter a house to loot it and notice somebody is wrestling around in the chimney. It's Santa Claus. And I was like, what? Like, it's okay? Santa Claus is in this game. And he was like, he asked you if you've been naughty or nice. And you can either say, like, naughty, nice, or, like, kick him in the butt or something. And if you kick him in the butt, he just leaves. And if you say naughty or nice, he gives you something. Like, he gives you a present, and then he joins your team immediately.
What?
Yeah. Because you can have, like, people like Garfield and, like, ninjas and, like, demons and stuff on your team. Like, it gets weird, right? Like, it's weird characters. And so Santa was just, like, on our team, and I was like, this is the weirdest goddamn thing ever. Because, like, he'll just randomly, like, in the middle of, like, while you're traveling, he'll just be like, Merry Christmas, or, like, like, he'll just, like, be talking and, like, jovially yelling about stuff, and, like, being Santa Claus, and it's amazing. And then, in the middle of the game, one of our guys had died. One of our starting 2, like, random people had died, and it was just one guy in Santa Claus. And the amazing thing about Death Road to Canada is it doesn't matter if the people you start with die, as long as, like, somebody on your team is alive. So, like, you can leave at the beginning with a person named Frank and a person named Sally, and then pick up a dog as your team member, and then pick up Garfield as a team member, and then Frank and Sally could die, and then suddenly Garfield and this dog are, like, still trying to get to Canada. Like, they're just, like, continuing the quest, and then the Garfield will die, and suddenly you only have a dog as, like, driving a car to Canada, and, like, then you'll get new people on your team. It's just total hysterical. So, one of our starting people dies, Santa Claus is still there, one of the night ends, and I get a message, a random event where it's like, in the middle of you to get a restful sleep, nothing happens. You wake up the next morning and there's a second Santa Claus. Nobody knows why, and you don't question it. And then you just move on, and suddenly you have 2 Santa Clauses on your team, and you're just like, what the hell is going on right now? And so I had 2 Santas and this other dude, and I was like, okay. And so we keep going. Inevitably, the other dude dies, so my team is just 2 Santa Clauses.
It sounds like the Christmas version of that movie Moon.
Oh, it gets better. We get the same event. Another Santa Claus appears.
You're kidding.
So our team is now 3 Santa Clauses driving the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile to Canada, because that was the car that we had found, was the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. The very first like zombie raid we get through, the third Santa Claus that had just appeared immediately dies, gets eaten. We're back down to 2 Santas. That night, we get another event. Another Santa Claus appears. And I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. This is our 4th Santa. And oh no, because the game loads, and it's actually a Santa Claus with angry eyebrows, and his hat is kind of pointed up instead of flopped over, and it just says Evil Santa. And, like, there's nothing different with him as far as I could tell, except he was Evil Santa. So my team is now Evil Santa, Santa, and Santa, like, in the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile going to Canada. It was just the most surreal thing I've ever experienced in a game. And it was incredible. Because
that's so bizarre.
And it gets even better because I tell this story to Evan. Evan tweets at the developer like, Tom just told me this hilarious story about a team full of Santa Clauses. And the developer on Twitter reveals to us that event, Santa Claus is a character that you can only get on Christmas Day. So you only can find Santa if you play Death Road to Canada on Christmas Day. And he was saying I can't remember what exactly he said, but he said, like, he got, like, a supreme amount of joy, like, building all of these weird events for a character that literally shows up one day out of the entire year and you will never see again. And it's just, like, it was just incredible. It was just like the most ridiculous thing I've ever experienced. I was just expecting to play a zombie game, and then I had like a team full of Santa Clauses with guns.
That's beautiful. I love that story.
It was amazing.
I love that's one of that is honestly one of the best like video game anecdotes I've heard in a long time.
They just kept showing up. My favorite part was that a Santa showed up, he immediately died, we immediately went to sleep, and then we woke up with Evil Santa, and it was like, oh my god, like, is that back? Is he back from the grave? Like,
is it the same one?
Is it the same Santa? Is he come against us?
Can we trust this one? Like,
dude, Santa fucking betrayed me too. I was like, I thought he was gonna be crazy loyal. He's great with like fixing cars. I thought he was gonna be super loyal. So it was at one point it was like these bandits show up and want all your stuff. You can send someone to parlay, or you can like give them, or you can just fight them. And I was like, I'll send Santa to like calm these guys down. He's a happy dude. And it was like, Santa Claus has betrayed you and joined the bandits. Like, and I was like, what's going on? Why, Santa? Why? It was awful. It was awful. It was awful. It was like it personally scarred me. But enough.
Christmas will never be the same.
No, it won't. But enough about Santa Claus and enough about Death Road to Canada. I apologize. I got really excited by that.
I just can't help but thinking what would be going through each of those Santas' heads. If you think of like waking up one morning and just be like, ooh, and there's just another Santa in the cabin with you, just like, hey man.
But it's great because every time Santa would be like everyone having a jolly day in the chat or whatever he said, like all of my normal people would be like, shut up, we're in the zombie apocalypse. Like they'd yell at him. But as soon as I had other Santas, they were like totally into it. And they were like, ho, ho, ho. And the other one would be like, on Dasher, on Pretz. And it was just like so ridiculous.
Imagine being a survivor in the zombie apocalypse and you're trying to make your way to Canada and you see 5 Santas drive by in the Wienermobile, one of which is undoubtedly evil. And you're just like, the apocalypse is a weird place. That would be the moment, that would be my breaking moment where I'm like, I don't want to live in the apocalypse anymore, and I've reached the end of my rope.
I like the idea
zombies,
that you...
not the fact that all my loved ones are dead. The fact that 5 Santas in a Wienermobile drove by.
I like the idea that you would ever want to live in the zombie apocalypse. Like that was a flip that you could have.
I guess you're right. But I mean, people persist. They hold on hope.
True.
That's where I would run out of all hope. Civilization is doomed.
All right, let's move on from Santa Clauses and let's talk about CES because there are very serious hardware things happening, like 2 terabyte flash drives.
It's very serious. No, CES is. We were just before the show kind of talking about how CES is like it's like a futurist car show. What is going on?
What is that
Santa's
noise?
Oh god.
Is that your
my
phone?
It was. I'm sorry.
That was terrifying.
I had no idea what that was.
That was Absolutely.
It's time to get serious, and immediately the phone was like,
God, that was actually terrifying.
Okay,
I thought we were in the ring or something. Like, I thought that was the moment.
I climb out of the monitor.
Exactly.
This is actually really fitting that when I explain what that was is so I had opened up an article of about the aforementioned $9,000 laptop.
Gotcha.
Which is it's an Acer Predator laptop, but I also have an Acer Predator laptop in for testing right now, and I had to actually go into the BIOS and turn off the startup sound because when you turned on the laptop, it would play this sound that, like, even if everything else was muted and quiet or whatever, it would just play this like raptor attack sound. It's like something.
Like who pitched that design feature?
Yeah, it's like, let's have a very loud.
This is a good idea.
Yeah, and so you had to go into the BIOS to disable the startup sound.
Wow.
And yeah, it was, and so yes, I hear this sound coming out of my phone. I look down and there's the Acer Predator logo. I was like, no, the sound has come back to get me.
It's a virus that's spreading to all my devices.
So there was a question in the chat, though. Give us a rundown of what CES is, what the Consumer Electronics Show is, it kind of generally, and also like basically why it matters to us. You know, like why should PC gamers pay attention if they should?
Yeah. So CES is it's one of the biggest hardware conventions for the year. It kicks off the year. It's in Las Vegas, and it's basically I don't know if you would call it like the E3 of hardware or something, but it's basically the place where all the major hardware manufacturers, definitely not limited to gaming, this is just like consumer tech in general, where they show off their cool new toys, basically. And not just the stuff coming out, but like the aspirational stuff. They show off concepts and like crazy, expensive, ludicrous, ridiculous things that most of which most people won't buy, and some of which like won't even make it to production.
There was like an 8K 200 hertz monitor, like TV last year.
Last year, it was like an 8K monitor. This year, there probably will be a handful of those because it's now like moving from ridiculous prototype to like possibly a thing that may happen in the future, but is still pretty far off.
I don't know.
Like the 8K monitor, as far as I know, was never made. Or at least is not like available or something. But yeah, so this leads to you getting products like yesterday or today we wrote about like a literally it's a 2 terabyte flash drive. Like it's a little flash drive, 2 terabytes.
Here I can pull up a photo of it.
It's
too.
pretty absurd. Yeah, there we go. This little guy.
It's
2 terabytes.
We had a drive by Kingston in the office that was a terabyte, I think, or it was maybe we had the 500 gig version of it. No, Anthony's saying we had the terabyte version. That was a similar design. This kind of just like huge chunky thing. Mm-hmm. That would block the ports next to it, sort of.
Pretty much
deal. Like, yeah.
And it's like this thing is going to be prohibitively expensive, probably costing upwards of $1,000, if not more.
Oh my God.
Because I'm pretty sure that the 1 terabyte one last year was something like $1,300.
It started at that, yeah.
Yeah, so but again, it's a little bit of just like CES is the show where they push the boundaries of what is available and what is possible. So you get companies showing off huge TVs, prototype designs for semi-relevant to us for things like VR headsets. This year, there's a lot of companies showing off basically outside of the big three VR are the main headsets. There's like there's the Rift, the HTC Vive, and then like the PlayStation VR.
I think those are the big three.
I would call those the big three.
You can also extend it.
Gear VR have like a huge market share though because it's $100 and
But I wouldn't call that like real VR. That's like phone VR.
Whoa, man. Let's not start.
I mean, I'm saying
we just had like a
console market. I'm not looking to start fights with the mobile market.
we just had like a real like standoff moment right there. Like that was tense. No, because I see what both of you are saying though. Because Steven is right that phone VR is like definitely the most accessible for people because all you need is this little thing. Like they were even giving away the Gear VR headset for free if you bought the 7, I think, the Galaxy 7.
Galaxy. I have one because I got it for free.
Yeah, but I think what Bo was saying was like dedicated VR headsets, right?
Like for playing like full featured games.
I don't even mean for like specifically like that. I mean like a thing that is a contained, like you don't need anything else. You don't need your phone. You don't need a case for it. It's just like when you buy an Oculus Rift, all you got to do is plug it into a computer, right? And I think in that sense,
there's the headsets that basically function as it's like a headset equivalent of a monitor, basically. That you know plug into your game displaying device or rendering device. Anyway, so we're starting to see some third party. Or just companies other than those making VR and AR headsets, as well as, plenty of ridiculous...
Oh my god, this is the greatest image I have ever seen in my entire life. I was just looking at this article that we had written earlier today about VR haptic feedback shoes.
Mm-hmm. Because it's CES.
And I clicked on the creator's website, and I was greeted by this unbelievable press image.
It's just wonderful.
Of a man kicking almost above his head with a little swooshy line, wearing VR shoes and holding VR fake hands while wearing an Oculus Rift.
Yep.
This is the future, people.
Yeah. To kind of sum up CES, like if you've seen those GIFs of like somebody playing an FPS with a VR headset and they're like standing in some ridiculous rig with like a rounded floor that captures their movement. Like that's the kind of stuff that gets shown off at CES. But as far as what's relevant to us as PC gamers, we get to see kind of the first slate, the first taste of what's going to be coming in terms of monitor tech. HDR is a really big thing this year that will be that's a high dynamic range, I believe it stands for, which basically just means like brighter colors and better picture overall in our monitors. And that's one of those things that thus far has somewhat been prohibitively expensive and is becoming more widely adopted in the coming year. We'll also see NVIDIA is expected to unveil the 1080 Ti, which is the more affordable kind of variant of the Titan X, usually, at least if that's anything compared to last generations where we had the GTX 980 and the twice as expensive Titan X, and then the following year the 980 Ti was around the price point of the 980, yet had performance of the Titan X. So if we can expect the same sort of thing, that would be the 1080 Ti, which hopefully will have performance of the $1,200 Titan X at the $600 price point of the 1080. Which would be really great because that's a really powerful card at a much more affordable price.
So I had a random GPU question the other day that came to mind that maybe you can answer, maybe Jared or Twan, who have kind of or Twan at least has background in manufacturing, actually. And Twan, by the way, people, is at CES right now, so he's going to be covering a lot more stuff from the show floor as well. So if we find anything silly like that, we'll bring it to you on the site.
Most definitely.
PCgamer.com/hardware. But also, so the question I had was, and maybe you can answer this, maybe not, and that's fine if not. Why has no one made a $50 to $100 graphics card, literally like a $60 graphics card, same price as a game, that's by all modern standards bad, right? It's not going to be nearly as good as even the low end cards that are 150.
Sure.
But it could run games basically. It could run simple things, indie games, smaller stuff. Just as if you want to build a basic PC sort of thing? Like, is that like a manufacturing thing where like there's just costs associated with building a card that is like higher than that? Or
I'm not totally sure because I don't know how much. Yeah, like I don't know the manufacturing side of things, so I don't know like the actual like part cost in terms of how much it costs to actually manufacture a card with that performance level. I know we are seeing like I think part of it is also I guess just basically like the interest in that would be sort of low because at that price point so there are cards that are like the cheapest cards available of like when new cards come out is like, for example, this year NVIDIA's 1050 and 1050 Ti, which I think are like $105 or maybe like $115, which is very cheap, and like can play, like it should be able to play basically like 1080 at 30 to maybe 60 FPS, like depending on the game, and it's not going to play like the crazy demanding games at 1080 60, but for relatively easy games, and I say this like not on ultra, but it'll be able to play like low to medium settings maybe at 1080 like 50 to 60 or something, again depending on the game. And I guess maybe they don't really have to go lower end than that. You basically can get a last gen graphics card or go back a generation or two. And
I
you
guess
probably
at that point it's not worth
could.
manufacturing.
Yeah,
that old stock.
I also wonder like how much of that like really really low end market would just be served fine by onboard like Intel integrated graphics too.
Yeah. You kind of have to ask like what are you trying to play at that level, because like even
Splunky.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is there are games that are integrated graphics basically like can't play much, but it can play a handful of things, and yeah, I feel like that maybe would benefit from that, but also like you would think that if somebody's building a PC, like the costs associated with everything else is already because it's not like you spend $60 and then can just play a game. Like you also still have to get motherboard and case and CPU and all that other stuff.
So the
which
reason,
again can be picked up on the cheap, but like
right,
it still adds up to a like $300 or $400 machine.
The reason this came to my mind was just because I had been considering trying to build like an arcade, like a MAME arcade cabinet sort of thing. And I realized I didn't need like a strong card to do that.
Yeah.
Like to run Castle Crashers in like an arcade cabinet, you don't need you wouldn't need a fancy card at all. Which is why it kind of came to mind. But I like the kind of the brainstorming you guys did, even if it's, even if the graphics card people would be like, no, we just don't do it because of this reason. Like I think you guys have made solid points.
I'm sure that that has been theory crafted out by their marketing and biz development people to be like checking out the demand for low end cards and compare it against the costs associated with manufacturing that.
But yeah, I mean, like for $105 for a 1050, like you really can't go any lower. It's
no, maybe that's the answer. So let's stop talking about low end stuff and tell me more about crazy stuff, because we mentioned this laptop before.
Let's get nuts.
This is like a stupid thing. Like you don't need to make this.
You really don't. And this laptop is actually like pretty baffling to me. So it's the Acer Predator 21X. It is scroll down to the specs so I can get all this right. The main thing I'm looking for. Oh yeah, so it has a 21-inch curved IPS panel, which I guess that's what makes it so expensive.
Oh my
but
God.
The thing is, it's only a 1080 resolution. Like you would think that for a $9,000 computer, you would at least put
No, it says 2560 by 1080.
By 1080, like you would think you would at least get 1440 or 4K. Like So I was just telling Steven before the show, like I just finished testing a laptop with two 1080s in it, and like it was crazy expensive, but it was like $5,600, not $9,000, and it came with, you could configure it with either a 4K screen or a 1440 120 hertz screen, and that seems like way better of a usage of dual 1080s. And actually, to that point, this thing probably won't perform that well because in all of my testing, at least on that other laptop, I found that SLI is like basically either useless or possibly even like inhibitive on at 1080p. Basically, like SLI doesn't scale very well, which that's at least what was told to me is why the problems were by Jared when I was like, am I getting terrible performance? And yeah, like in some games I would actually get worse performance with SLI enabled than with it disabled when testing at 1080p on this dual 1080 crazy expensive laptop.
It's like they were just like, I wonder if laptop builders, like laptop manufacturers, are drinking buddies. And like they just kind of got too drunk one night and they were like, I bet I can put a mechanical keyboard in this laptop. Yeah. And they were like, do it. And they did it at CES last year. And then this year they were like, I bet I can put a mechanical keyboard and a curved IPS widescreen monitor. And they're like, bring it on. Come on. And raise the stakes. Yeah, Come at me. And it's like, fine. And two 1080s. Let's go. Like, they just kept going at each other.
I find it funny, though, because I just had this epiphany of us criticizing this laptop. But we're also the website that built the LPC, which requires two keys to even turn the damn thing on.
I mean...
And has naked angels gracing the case of it.
The thing is, though, is like...
Okay.
Outside of the custom paint job and everything, and all the custom styling on the LPC, like, the component list for the LPC, like, is not that much more expensive than that $9,000 laptop if you break down all the components.
So, Bo, I have a question for you. With these, I mean, obviously a $9,000 gaming laptop is a bit ridiculous, but even, the $4,000 gaming laptops or the $5,000 gaming laptops, I don't understand who the target demographic is for that, because those laptops at a certain point, they become so unmanageable as like a mobile platform that they basically need to be played on a desk. It's not like you're going to pop this out in the airplane without pissing off the people who are next to you and have to you take up half of their tray.
My experience with these crazy high-end laptops, so the one that I was testing, it was a Eurocom Sky X9 E2, I believe was the full model number or whatever. It 4K screen, i7, 6700K, fully overclockable, big SSD, dual 1080s in that. But to power the thing, it required two 330 watt power bricks. Two of them. Yeah, two power bricks. And not just a slim little MacBook thing, a big hulking the power brick,
the Xbox power bricks.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, I was actually the laptop itself is kind of impressively only 12.1 pounds, but the power bricks were another 3.5 each. So yeah, it's you could put it all in a bag, but that's now pushing 20 pounds basically. And
they're desktop replacements. They really are.
That's the thing
I was making.
It's not to be popped out. It's effectively a portable desktop, because that is the thing, is you can it's not practical or anything, but you could close it up, put it in a backpack, a big backpack, but a backpack nonetheless, and take it with you on a plane or take it with you to a trade show or something. So I think that they're primarily aimed at people, probably not gamers, and more of people who need them for, at least the Eurocom one that I was testing, it was aimed as a mobile workstation, like workhorse type machine,
Okay.
that could run high-end programs that take crazy processing power. Because a lot of games, like most games, they can take advantage of high-end stuff to get better performance, but they don't exactly need that in order to run. But some professional-grade programs, they take really, really powerful equipment to run them. And so I think that is more of the target demographic.
And that's
at
also
least
gotta
on that
harvest
one, though.
bitcoins on the go.
Yeah.
These bad boys.
This one, though, the Acer Predator, like Predator is Acer's gaming enthusiast line, so it's presumably aimed at gamers. It has all the gamer styling, and I would not be surprised if it has that Raptor startup sound on the boot.
It's gonna haunt my dreams. That sound.
Yeah,
It's gonna haunt my dreams. But let's move along from CES because I love looking at and thank you, Bo, for sharing all those details. And like we said, keep an eye out, pcgamer.com/hardware. All week we're gonna have, and through the weekend we're gonna have coverage of stuff because Twan is there on the show floor, probably trying out the rocket boots and the talking fridges that there were last year.
One can only hope.
One can only hope. There were rocket boots, Steven.
Oh, I thought that was hyperbole.
Oh no. Oh no.
Okay. There's
That
rocket
was
boots.
true.
It's CES. Why did I doubt that for even a minute?
I like that you question rocket boots and not talking refrigerators. That one just
I didn't hear the talking. They're talking refrigerators.
Okay, we have a lot to talk about though. Games of 2017, our most anticipated games of 2017, what we're looking forward to, whatever you want to call it. We put together this huge, insane, amazing list on PCGamer.com. Everyone should send Tyler Wilde a tweet saying you're a champion because he wrangled a large majority of this. He put together the thing that we're calling Guide to the Games of 2017. You can also go to pcgamer.com/new-games-2017 and you'll find it. And essentially what we've done is we've tried to gather like as many games as we could from all the important ones that are coming out in this year. And what I want to do is Steven has his list as well in his little Canada world. And we're just going to kind of go through this and just like talk about things that we want to specifically call out as games that are like we're interested in. Is there anything that jumps to mind? Obviously the one that is really quick right now is, I'm sure I can find it on this page, Mass Effect just got a release date. Mass Effect Andromeda is coming out on March 21st, I think, in the States.
I believe that is the date.
So that's soon, man.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It's I think especially sort of exciting because there really hasn't been a ton of preview coverage of that game. Like, I mean, there have been people being like, we're crazy hyped for Mass Effect Andromeda, but we really haven't seen a ton of gameplay, really.
No, yeah, they did that one, like, 5-minute video that we brought up on the show a while back, and that's kind of the only gameplay we've really seen of it.
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting, in this era of previews coming 1, 2, or 6 years before the game comes out, to see, obviously it's been known about, but it's pretty cool to be like, all right, we're getting a look at it, and then it's available pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like that, though. I like when games don't take forever, like, from announcement to launch. Like, it was Fallout 4 was like, they announced the game, and then, like, 6 months later it was out.
Which was the best. That was the best thing about Fallout 4 was that it was coming out 6 months after, and it wasn't due out in 2022.
Anything you want to call out, Steven?
Yeah, I think as the MMO guy, I'm pretty excited by some of the new MMOs that are probably maybe not fully launching in 2017, but hopefully will be there in some form of maybe like a late beta phase. Particularly Crowfall is the one that I'm really excited about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Crowfall is like a really interesting PvP-focused MMO because you have persistent characters, but the worlds that they inhabit aren't. And so how it kind of works is you make a character, you go into kind of like this campaign, and for a month, you'll basically have this huge, ongoing war against characters of the opposite faction. And over the course of that month, the world will basically kind of go through seasons where, like, in the beginning, there will be lots of abundant resources and you're going to be building lots of bases and kind of building up. But then as the seasons go on, the world kind of dies and resources become more scarce. So you fight over less and less resources. And then eventually the world just ends, it dies, and you can join a new campaign as that character. And they're going to have all sorts of kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like, different campaigns can have different rule sets and different tweaks. And I think they were talking about the world generation for them will be somewhat procedural, or it'll be different. So it's not like you're just playing on the same map again and again and again. So I think that's like a really interesting and potentially innovative take on MMOs, where that genre has gotten kind of stale in the last few years.
Yeah, I actually got a chance. They came into the office like a little while back, like a month or so before the break, and I got a chance to play it and like do a little bit of it, and it's cool. It's early. It's very, very early, but it's cool.
Yeah, that's the disappointing thing with it right now is, and I mean, MMOs, I feel kind of bad for. I think it's one of the downsides to like this generation of crowdfunded MMOs, like Crowfall, Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. Basically, all the ones that are coming out right now have been crowdfunded in some way. But I think part of the problem is MMOs are not games that look good in early stages, whereas like a tight indie game can, look really nice, within the first year of its development. Crowfall, I mean, you look at some of the trailers and it looks really rough, but the ideas are exciting. So hopefully they can execute well on them. Yeah, I don't know. Bo.
Yeah, one that, as Tom was scrolling a second ago, that I think Evan has probably talked about in the past, but it was a Hello Neighbor. Seems pretty cool. It's you have a murderous neighbor, I believe, and it's a kind of quirky home invasion type situation but I say home invasion in like the Home Alone sense of the word. Where I sort of forget exactly the specifics of it, but I remember seeing that it looked really cool. But yeah, you basically have this neighbor that is, I guess, trying to kill you, and you have to dodge him. Yeah, here we go.
Well, it's like you're trying to figure out like what he's up to, essentially. Like he's up to something nefarious, and you don't know what. I think there's actually already a beta version of this game out in the wild somewhere.
But yeah, all the encounters, it's very it's procedural and emergent gameplay where so the neighbor like learns and responds to the type of stuff you do. So if you're going in the front a bunch of times, he'll start putting traps there and responds and adapts to the type of paths that you are taking.
It's such a funny concept for a game. But it's kind of great. Like it's a really like it's a spooky idea, It's like it's an idea that I feel like hasn't really been explored in this way. Because if you want to call it like a stealth infiltration game or whatever, like that's fine. But like I haven't seen like a stealth game where like the idea is to like break into a place and just like avoid one person. Like is like it's very intimate and very cool that way.
I feel like this is a game that looks like super, like it obviously looks really silly and kind of cartoony. I feel like there's a potential there, and maybe that it's not what they're going for. But I feel like this is like a type of game that maybe for like a subset of people that play it will trigger some very disturbing social anxieties about like neighborly relations, because that's kind of like the weird thing we deal with in this, day and age is, people live in apartment buildings with neighbors that they didn't choose or want. And so the thought that one of them's trying to kill you.
So here's a game that I only have it's not on this list yet because it's only as of yesterday we learned it was like a thing, and it might not even come out this year. It might be a while. I actually saw someone from Chucklefish, Supernorn, in the chat at the beginning of the show. I don't know if you're still around, but Chucklefish has been slowly revealing more and more from this like upcoming like tactics game that they're making that they've said is basically going to be like kind of what's the word? Advance Wars. So like, here's a look at it, that they tweeted. The CEO of Chucklefish tweeted out like yesterday, I think it was. It started all of this, and it's like really looks like kind of medieval Advance Wars, and Advance Wars being like the Game Boy game that's like tactics, kind of like Fire Emblem-y, except you like spawn units, and so he tweeted out this image, and it was like the most I'd seen of this game since they announced that they were like potentially working on the concept like 5 months ago. And then after that image, he tweeted this morning actually, like it in action, the exact same image, but like moving and like with attacking and like with battle animations, and it's way more of a game than I was expecting after only 5 months, because Starbound left into 1.0 in July, and then they said that they were potentially like considering doing this idea in August. And so it was like, you know, they haven't been working on it too long, and they've already got this really cool video of like, they have a working, what seems to be like level editor already, that like you can just like build a world really quick and like drop units in. Like, so I think this game might be sooner than people were expecting it, and like, as far as I knew, like I wasn't even expecting it to be a real thing yet. Like they hadn't even like formally said, yes, we are actually making this yet. So the fact that they're like now showing off like little bits of gameplay, even if it is still early, is like kind of crazy how fast this snuck up. And I love Advance Wars, so I'm excited for this game.
Totally. It'll be interesting, right? Because I mean, Starbound was a game that was in early access for a long time, like 2 years. 3 years? 2 years?
Two or 3 years. I can't remember.
2 or 3
which.
years. It felt like a long time. And yeah, so I'm interested to see sort of maybe kind of what lessons they've picked up from Starbound, and how they talk about their video games and stuff like that, and whether or not they're going to kind of do the same route where it's like, okay, here's like the very early thing, but 3 years from now, that's when we'll finally release it. Or if it's going to be, a more kind of, nope, it's just coming out. Have they talked about like their plans for early access or anything like that?
I mean, technically they haven't even formally announced the game, right? Like,
right.
They just said, we're working on this, and then they've been showing stuff off. They didn't say anything about early access. The vibe I'm getting, and this is completely just a vibe thing, like it's just, it could be incredibly...
Spidey senses tingling.
It could be incredibly wrong. So don't... oh, wait, actually, I think Super Norn is still in the chat. Yeah, he says it's very exciting. I'm very excited about it, too. But the vibe I'm getting is maybe they'll go early access. I don't know at all if that's like a thing, or... You know, like that's just totally my guess. I feel like early access would maybe make sense, but you know, maybe they don't like the way Starbound was treated in early access. Maybe they do. I have no idea. The other thing about it though is, and this was one of the really exciting things when Finn Bryce, the CEO of the company of Chucklefish, got back to me about it, is he said that the way he described it is a first-person turn-based game is a turn-based strategy game, more modern spiritual successor to Advance Wars that retains some of the pixel charm. Goal is to make good use of modern tech, saying online multiplayer and workshop support. So like online multiplayer is cool and it's good that it will have that, but like workshop support in a tactics game, in a pixelized tactics game, is like maybe the most exciting thing I've heard in a long time. Because that's going to make modding new units and like new factions into that game so easy and so much fun.
It's so smart. That's probably one of the best elements of Starbound, is that it had the workshop support built in as well. And I mean, even I think it was in early access they still had workshop support, because like I want to say I remember playing that game when it was still in early access and modding features in that weren't there, that just made that game better for a variety of reasons, even though the official versions of those same features came later. So yeah, like I think this is a fantastic game. Didn't mean to give it like a review. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
I have the inside scoop that this game's going to be good. No, I think it's a great idea. I'm super excited by an Advance Wars on PC.
And as you put that, like, you know, it's an exciting idea, but you don't want to hype in the days of 2016 where things got hyped out of control, and then like, you know, we're not all great. Like, you can't get too excited for it, but like it is encouraging. And something Evan said that I thought was a really good point is like, maybe, and once again, this is 100% just speculation, but like maybe Chucklefish looked at their success publishing Stardew Valley and was like, hey, let's just make more Nintendo games on PC and people will love them because you know what? I'm fucking fine with that. Like,
It's not
I think it's a great
bad
business strategy.
idea. Like it's a really good idea, to be honest. If you can execute on it well, yeah. You just recreate Stardew Valley's sort of success with other, Advance Wars would be a good one.
all right, wait, but real quick, let's temper that because you just said if you just recreate Stardew Valley's success, like just
Sure,
recreate
just
that. Like, I think that's a little bit
It's
more
like,
difficult.
I need you to take
Just
this
mute my
video
mic.
and make it
Everything
go
I'm saying is
viral.
bullshit,
Yeah.
Right? Don't listen to me.
So
Sorry.
Supernord in the chat also mentioned that Starbound did have modding support from day one, but didn't get Steam Workshop support until 1.0.
Okay.
So modding was there,
Modding.
but the
Okay.
workshop
That's
came at the.
then what I
after
was
early
remembering
access.
was modding the game.
Yeah,
Not
it's just
workshopping it.
so we can keep going to other games though, but that's one that I didn't even think was a real thing until yesterday, and now it's like, oh, they're showing little bits of gameplay, and it's pretty exciting.
Right.
Did anything else jump out at you on this list?
Yeah, another one. I've seen this game at conventions, demoed it. Kingdom Come Deliverance is an open world RPG that I feel like the more I see it, the more I become really intrigued by it because it seems kind of like a game in vein of, I don't even know how to describe it. If you haven't seen it, it's like a first-person open world.
Which page of the list is that on?
It is under RPGs.
Okay.
Kingdom
I'll pull
Come
up the trailer.
Deliverance. So it's a realistic role-playing game set in medieval times. I believe it's set in I can't think of it, some European country. But it's really cool because they've paid a huge amount of attention to detail. And when I demoed this game and sat with them and talked with them, they were showing us like they went to this country, they were modeling the villages and stuff like that as historically accurate as possible. They were talking with historians. They showed us things of like, here's this cathedral as it exists today, and here's what it looks like in the game. And it's basically like a one-to-one recreation with a little bit of artistic license taken here and there to try and obviously account for the fact that it's now aged, 400 years or whatever. It kind of has the Mountain Blade combat thing where you're swinging your sword and it's very sort of, you have to plan your blows and it can be very punishing. Like if you can't swing too much, else you'll run out of breath and then the guy can easily just, impale you. It's apparently this big open world and very kind of, it got elements of, I want to say like Sims where you're kind of just existing in this world and you're free to do what you want. It looks really interesting. It looks hyper ambitious, but that's one I'm really excited about, to be honest. I love historically minded games, and so that's something that really appeals to me.
That's cool. It's real pretty too.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous.
Surprisingly, I'm really digging the trend that happened over last year and is continuing to happen of like brighter, greener, like prettier games rather than like, I know we've been moving away from grays and browns for a while now, but like I feel like we've really successfully gone the other direction now, which I'm into.
Varendil in the chat says it's set in Bohemia, which is modern day Czech Republic.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Which is cool because that's also like, I mean, when you're looking at historically accurate games or games that are just even play with, historical settings, I think Czech Republic is kind of a unique take on Europe, whereas normally you'd think like, okay, we're used to like the Italys and the Londons and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm interested.
Yeah. Is there anything else jumped out to you?
Not really. There's there are a lot. It's mainly just everything's mashed together, and there's so much on this list. It's a really great long list. I highly recommend y'all checking it out. Because there's a little bit of everything for you guys in there. And, of course, the big ones, like we said, Mass Effect, and
Prey.
Prey.
We even put Red Dead Redemption 2 on the list just to, like, add a hope. I think it would be crazy if it didn't come. Like maybe they'll
yeah.
maybe they'll do the thing they did with GTA 5 and they'll release it a year and a half later. But I think it
Yeah.
would be crazy if Red Dead Redemption 2 didn't end up eventually coming to PC.
I think even like, I mean, I don't know the sales figures for GTA 5 on PC, but the amount of times that it's in the Steam's top seller list,
Yeah.
I think it would even be not a stretch to say I feel like it would be crazy for them to delay the launch by a year. Like I think at this point there's no more, unless there's like technical difficulties that they're dealing with. At this point, like I can't see a whole lot of like, well, maybe it'll be successful on PC, maybe it won't be. Like it will. I think it's fairly safe to say that if that game is good, it'll be a huge hit on the PC. So yeah, I don't understand them. Like I think it would be really bizarre for them to delay it for over a year, maybe a couple months or something, because that's fairly common. But
Well, I mean, one thing that's part of that is, and obviously this is different, like you were saying, now that GTA 5 has already done it, but GTA 5 came a year and a half later, but it was also like an incredibly good PC port and had the whole like video recorder thing that the console
Right.
versions didn't have. Like they took a hell of a long time to get it out, but like they did a good job once it was there.
But it was essentially the same version as the PS4 and Xbox One version. Like, obviously, you could scale the graphics up even beyond that, but it was still kind of the same. You know, it was essentially, you could probably argue that it was like the port of the HD version made for PS4 and Xbox One. And so they won't have to, like with Red Dead Redemption 2, they probably won't have to do that same thing where they're kind of in that awkward place between a console generation. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very
No,
true.
Does
you're
that sound
right.
crazy?
No, well, man, what about the Switch?
Little do we know that the Switch is going to change everything about video games.
Or probably change very little.
Probably.
You
If I
guys,
was a skeptic.
you guys are haters.
But there will probably
Excited for
be
the Switch.
eventually there will be a new Smash Brothers on it, hopefully, so I will get it and play that. So
I played Super Mario Run for the first time ever yesterday because I saw that it had been downloaded like 90 million times, and I was like, maybe I should try what that is. 90 million times was not hyperbole, by the way.
That it's apparently
There's been a lot
popular.
of hyperbole
Who knew
on this show.
Mario's
So
popular?
at this point, we need to disclaim.
Yeah, that there's
It's mostly my fault.
this show is definitely a hyperbolic one.
I'm excitable.
But yeah,
No, it's my fault too.
I was going to say one game I am pretty excited about is Tacoma, which is the next game from Fulbright. There's the developer. Developer who made Gone Home, which was a really great game. Tacoma is kind of like Gone Home in space. That's all I really know about.
I was hoping those words would come out of your mouth.
That's really all I know about it, and that's pretty much all I intend to know about it before playing it. Most of the enjoyment for me of Gone Home was going into it and knowing next to nothing and exploring the game. And so, yeah, I fully intend on reading very little about this game and then playing it when it comes out.
Yeah, it looks pretty. It looks cool. They prove that they can make things. They prove that they can start arguments across the internet about whether or not a game is actually a game. Arguments that don't help anybody and don't solve anything and have no friendly conclusion.
But Tom, are games art?
Dude, I don't care. Like, that's maybe an unpopular opinion with this whole art, what defines a game as our game's art thing. But like,
I'm with you, man.
my opinion is like, we don't need to have that conversation to enjoy these things, right? Like,
Yeah.
My opinion is that people can just think what they want and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess
whether or not people, like if people all rally together and we had a conclusive opinion that games are art, really doesn't change a whole lot, I don't think. Maybe like on a legal aspect, there's that argument to be made. Like if games are art, then maybe more governments will want to fund and give grants to games. I don't know. But yeah, at this point, I'm exhausted by that conversation.
so let's not have it. Let's just say
Yeah.
Tacoma looks pretty as hell.
Yeah,
It looks
yeah.
cool. Yeah, I think there's just look through this list, guys. There's just a lot. And actually, let's open it up to the Twitch chat. Tell us if there's something on this list. I'll post it again, but once again, you can go to pcgamer.com/new-games-2017. Tag us with @pcgamer in the Twitch chat. Ask your questions. Tell us to talk about specific games if you want our opinions on them that are coming up this year, or about hardware at CES or whatever you want. If you are a subscriber, please we ask us questions. We'll try to get to you first because we love you for supporting the show. If you're not a subscriber, please ask as well because we just love you also. We're very fun. We're a loving community here at PC Gamer. We include all. If your question is asking us to discuss whether games are art, no. We will not have that conversation right now. Not because we don't want to, but because we have 8 minutes left in the show, and that's not the time or place. I think it is an important, I think it's a conversation you could have, but if you want to join us, maybe you can go to discord.gg/PCGamer, and you could ask the people there and maybe see if you want to start that argument.
Let's start a new channel inside of the Discord that's just Our Games Art. And we can just have it out in there.
All right, let's look for some questions. Varendeel, subscriber, asks the first question of the week. Couldn't be here for the last show to ask my question as I was off watching Rogue One. Good choice. Good. I'd make that decision too.
I can't actively condone you not watching us, but if you're going to not watch us, watching Star Wars is a good choice.
So, delayed question in relation to that. What? Oh God, it's going so fast. What is your guys' favorite Star Wars game? I have trouble choosing between KOTOR 1, Battlefront 2, and Jedi Academy. That's a tough question because, man, there are a lot of good Star Wars games. Knights of the Old Republic is up there for sure. I'm also a really big fan of, oh God, I always forget the name of this damn game. The one where you are Darth Vader's apprentice.
Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed. Thank you.
We all stalled on it.
Force Unleashed. I think that game got a bad rap. I thought that was a really cool game.
I really dig the flight sims. TIE Fighter is the obvious standout of the bunch, but as a kid, I still liked X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. I liked all of the ones I could get my hands on. Those ones are super great. What was the live-action shooting one? Do you guys remember that? That one was a really old one. I grew up with that one, and I loved it.
Are you talking about? You're not talking about the Doom clone.
No, that was Dark Forces. This one was you would take cover and you would have to push a button to come out of cover at the right time.
So it was like Time Crisis, but Star Wars.
There was. It was everything was real assets. It wasn't any computer assets. I believe everything was just ripped from the movies and stuff.
Was it arcade or was it a?
No, it was a computer game, but it was it used full. What's the word I'm looking for when that use film?
Oh, it's FMV.
FMV?
FMV. It was an FMV game, but still fairly interactive.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the perhaps dark horse candidate for at least this show. My favorite Star Wars game is Shadows of the Empire from the N64.
Oh, man.
That was a great game. But also KOTOR is great.
Wait, was that... Yeah. Wait. Was Shadows of the Empire the one where you play as the bounty hunter?
I think he's a bounty hunter. Yeah, his name is Dash Rendar.
Yeah. That game was great. I still distinctly remember the IG-88 fight in the trash world.
When The Force Awakens came out, I had this very, very tinfoil hat theory that BB-8 was IG-88.
That's amazing.
In some sort of weird alternate universe. He's not, as far as I know, but there's a lot of similarities.
People in the chat are making me remember that there's actually a lot of great Star Wars games.
Dude,
Republic Commando is probably one of the best squad-based shooters that has ever been released, too. Maybe it doesn't hold up so well today, but in my memory, I remember that game being amazing.
So the two I'm gonna split it and then we can move on. My two are between Rogue Squadron,
also a favorite of mine.
Oh, so good.
I'm gonna go between Rogue Squadron and what was its name? The Pod Racer.
Oh, Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer.
That one. The Pod Racing
Which was
game.
by far the best and probably only good thing to come out of Episode 1.
My God.
Hang on.
It was the reason Episode 1 deserves to exist. That game is amazing.
That and the song Duel of the Fates. That's where its only contributions to the Star Wars universe.
Pod racing is cool, though. The game's great, but just the concept of pod racing I always enjoyed.
Now that's pod racing.
No, it's pod racing.
Let's take a couple more questions. I saw one that I really wanted to bring up. Zed Clampett, subscriber, asks, is there any news when Hellblade will be released? Initially, they said 2016. I don't think we've gotten any update on that.
Right.
It's coming right along, I guess. Is unfortunately all the updates we have. Let's see. Grab a couple more. I saw one that was Genofix asked, Astroneer is looking good. Do you see it as getting as big as Minecraft? I'm going to say no. Nothing will ever get as big as Minecraft ever again. Minecraft is the alpha, the omega. It is everything at this point. Not because I personally am in love with it, just because it's like it's become this own thing. Like it's just not like a video game anymore. It's like this bigger thing.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
Basically. That being said, I think Astroneer is really shaping up to be a very cool game. I really, really like what it's got in early access right now, and I'm really excited to see it grow. So I think Astroneer is definitely one to keep an eye on, but maybe not that much of an eye on. There was another question that was thoughts on Rhyme. If there aren't any other subscriber questions, I definitely want to grab that one. Did you guys see this? Rhyme, initially, this was an IGN trailer that got revealed. Rhyme was a game that was like first announced like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now they just did a re-reveal trailer, whatever the heck that means.
It's some lovely cel-shaded art.
It just kind of looks like, the art style is really nice. It looks like Wind Waker meets The Witness, kind of. Like it's
with like a little bit of like eco or
something
in there.
A little bit of that in there. It's very colorful again, like I was saying, really bright and colorful, very like simple matte colors rather than like complex textures. And I think it's like a third-person like puzzly adventure-y game.
It looks pretty cool.
It looks pretty great.
I haven't seen this before.
Oh yeah. This trailer just came out like yesterday, I think.
It looks very nice.
Yeah,
That's my thoughts.
It kind of was my thoughts as well so far. It's neat. Let's take one more question if we can fit it in here, because I think I saw Jabba Blaze somewhere. Varendeel says, if Minecraft is no longer just a game, can it qualify as art? God.
Yes. Minecraft is the one. It's the one that's transcended. It's art.
Let's see. What are your impressions of the new Prey from PM Floyd 94? We haven't played it yet. But the gameplay that's been shown so far is pretty cool. It's encouraging.
You could say we haven't prayed it yet.
Oh, God, you had to. You had to end the show on that note.
I did.
I'm mad at you.
And then, okay, Apollo Dingo asks, what improvements does PC gaming need in 2017? We actually did a whole article all about that called How PC Gaming Can Improve in 2017. So I encourage you to go to PCGamer.com and look at that. And then the last question that we'll take, because we're running out of time, is Panzer2 asks, thoughts on Windows 10 game mode. Did you have any thoughts on that, Bo?
I don't. I haven't tried it out yet. I saw a little bit about the news. It looks fine, but I really haven't read anything about it yet.
It's the main sentiment I saw from at least around the office was kind of like cool, but it's also sort of unnecessary. Like it feels a little bit redundant, and it almost feels like Microsoft is like moving towards making it feels like what they would do if they were trying to blur the line between the Xbox and the Windows 10 more. So it could be an indication of things to come, but I'm not very excited about it right now. Not that I'm down on it or anything.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, because I haven't read about it. But from what you just said, if it's anything like, say, Steam Big Picture mode, which is here's a thing, but then do people actually need it or use it? That kind of remains to be seen.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're out of time though. So thank you very much for asking all your questions. I know it was a little bit rapid fire at the end there, But I wanted to get you all in because we're happy to be back.
We really are.
We're happy to be with you again. Come say hello to us in the Discord. We're going to be there after the show. Once again, discord.gg/PCGamer. So you're welcome to join us. And come say hi. Thank you again. We'll be back next week like we always are. Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And you can look forward to some more PC gaming related hashtag content. I'm sorry. I feel bad every time I say that, even when it's a joke. Well, thank you very much, guys. And we will see you next week. Take it easy.